This is the Weekly Roundup on EAC News Channel. A very good evening to you. I'm Darshana Gauchan. Prime Minister Hun Sen has said that the Cambodian People's Party and the Cambodian people will never forget 7th January Victory over Genocide Day, and that even if they have to go to war to protect this day, they will dare to do so. EAC News reporter Chamrong Rithisit has more.
The Prime Minister made this statement while speaking at the groundbreaking ceremony for the construction of a new flyover along National Road 5 at the intersections of the concrete bridge across the Tlay Sap River in Resekau district on Monday morning. The Prime Minister stated that the CPP needs to send a message to its compatriots. The Prime Minister stated that the CPP needs to send a message to its compatriots that during the COVID-19 era, everyone must be careful, even during holidays. He continued that some analysts have questioned why CPP members have refused to celebrate 7th January in 2021 and once more in 2022. The Premier explained that this year he had been traveling to Myanmar on this day, but from the analysts, it seems that members of the CPP are likely retreating from Vietnamese influence connected to the day. He stated that even though Vietnam came to aid Cambodia in liberations, the story of 7th January is still very much about the lives of Cambodian people. He urged everyone to understand this very clearly. Chumrong Retiset, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has been selected as the winner of the 2022 Sun Hak Peace Prize Founders Award, which will be presented to him at an award ceremony on 12 February 2022 in Seoul, South Korea. EAC News reporter Straipor Kong has more.
The chair of the Sun Hak Peace Foundation, Thomas G. Walls, wrote a letter to Prime Minister Hun Sen on 25 January, informing him that he was selected to receive the 2022 Sun Hak Peace Prize Founder Award, due to his steadfast leadership over many years as Prime Minister of Cambodia, which has contributed to stability, economic development, and peace both in Cambodia and Southeast Asia. He wrote it saying that the committee recognized the Prime Minister's effort to promote peace in the wider region of the Asia-Pacific, including his call for the establishment of an Asia-Pacific Union. Therefore, the Sun Hak Peace Prize Foundation is respectfully offered him in recognition of his contribution to peace and human development. The Sun Hak Peace Prize was established in 2015 to honor the peace version of its founders, the late Reverend Som Yong Moon and Dr. Hacha Han Moon. The award was established to recognize individuals and organizations that have served humanity in exemplary ways, making the world better for future generations. The committee has mentioned that they will be honored to have Prime Minister Hun Sen accept this award in person in South Korea and deliver a message of hope for a peaceful future of humanity. The Sun Hak Peace Foundation wishes to work hand in hand with Cambodia Premier to build a wall of peace for future generations. Sri Pokong, EAC News.
The Ministry of Public Works and Transport plans to directly connect water transport from Basak River to the sea in Kep Province after completing the new mega project waterway system. At the closing ceremony of the meeting to summarize the work results of 2021 and the direction of work for 2022, held on 20th January, the Minister of Public Works and Transport, Sun Chantol, said that the ministry is considering plans to connect the waterways of Basak River directly to the sea without having to go through the international lead port of Vietnam. Senior Minister Sun Chantol confirmed that the ministry has completed a study on the master plan to connect Basak River to the sea in Kep Province and has already reported this matter to Prime Minister Hun Sen and the Minister of Interior. The ministry is further studying the impact and size of the cost of this project. The Minister of Public Works said that this mega project waterway system will help to develop the water transport sector, and provinces such as Takeo will benefit from this downstream connection. The ministry is also developing a number of riverbank satellites as a strategy to boost waterway transport, to bring port services closer to consumers and make local ports have the potential to support national economic growth and reduce poverty. Prime Minister Hun Sen has stated that China will provide an additional 5 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines after a meeting between the Chinese ambassador to Cambodia and Deputy Prime Minister Hao Nam-hong. He made this statement while speaking at the groundbreaking ceremony for the new flyover in Ruseikao district on Monday morning. EAC News reporter Chamrong Litisit has more.
Speaking at the groundbreaking ceremony, Prime Minister Hun Sen stated that he had previously ordered the Ministries of Health to contact China to purchase 8 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines. However, following a recent meeting between the former Foreign Minister, Deputy Prime Minister Hao Nam-hong and Chinese Ambassador to Cambodia Wang Wentien, the Chinese side confirmed that they would provide an additional of 5 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines to Cambodia. The Prime Minister stated that Cambodia currently has more than 9 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine in store, but he was looking into buying another 8 million doses to bolster vaccine security. Then, the other day, the Chinese ambassador met with Deputy Prime Minister Hao Nam-hong and promised to provide further vaccine assistance to Cambodia with an additional 5 million doses. So Prime Minister Hun Sen ordered the purchase of an additional 3 million doses, so a total of 8 million COVID-19 vaccine doses will arrive in Cambodia in the first half of 2022. He further confirmed that Cambodia does not have a problem with lacking vaccines. The problem lies in the numbers of people coming to get vaccinated, particularly for the booster dose. He urged the people to continue getting vaccinated against COVID-19, both the basics and booster doses. He stressed that everyone must particularly continue implementing 3 health protection rules and measures. As of 30 January 2022, nearly 14 million people in Cambodia have been fully vaccinated. Nearly 6 million people have received a 3rd dose, and more than 450,000 people have received a 4th dose booster shot. Chamrong Retiset, EAC News.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Prak Sokhonn, confirmed to the UN Security Council on 28 January that the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting will now be held on 16th to 17th February. EAC News reporter Sraipor Kong has more details.
According to Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn, the meeting will discuss the arrangement for his first visit to Myanmar as the ASEAN Special Envoy, the priority of implementing the 5-point consensus and organizing multilateral consultative meetings on humanitarian assistance with the support and cooperation of the ASEAN Secretaries and the UN Special Representative of the Secretary General UNSG. Also to be discussed is the Special Envoy's work to gather all practical humanitarian approach from expert, local, regional and international humanitarian agency to facilitate the immediate delivery of humanitarian assistance to Myanmar. Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn stressed that all these activities are based on the spirit of the 5-point consensus and the ASEAN Charter, and there are many other issues, challenges for ASEAN to address beside the crisis in Myanmar, including the need to improve the welfare of the whole region. He specifically stated, "We cannot let the crisis in Myanmar pull us backward, and we must work together to address these challenges together." The ASEAN Foreign Minister meeting was previously scheduled to be held on 18 and 19 January. But due to the difficulties related to travel and attendance among many ASEAN foreign ministers, the meeting was postponed. The ASEAN Foreign Minister Retreat, also known as the AMM Retreat, was established in 1967 to focus on ASEAN political and security cooperation and ASEAN member relations with external parties within the ASEAN region. The AMM meets at least 4 times a year and may also convene for special meetings when necessary to discuss issues that need urgent attention from ASEAN. The AMM regularly reviews and discusses efforts to build the ASEAN community, its strategic future direction, and the conduct of ASEAN external relations. Sri Pokong, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has urged citizens to continue implementing strict health measures and receiving COVID-19 booster shots, particularly the 4th dose for those eligible, to continue maintaining high community immunity, ensuring the continuation of social activities, and a fully restored and safe economy. During the handover ceremony of the 300,000 doses of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines arriving from the Republic of Poland held at the Council of Ministers on Sunday morning, Prime Minister Hun Sen stated that vaccines are a key measure to controlling the spread of COVID-19 and bringing the ongoing health crisis to an end. He cited the success of the national vaccination campaign as the primary reason why Cambodia was able to announce the end of the 20th February 2021 community transmission event in December. He said the success of the national vaccination campaign has boosted the Cambodian economy beyond expectations, adding that the Cambodian economy is predicted to have grown by 3% in 2021 and is predicted to grow by more than 5% in 2022 through a full national reopening and return to normal socioeconomic activities in all sectors. Cambodia fully reopened the country on 1 November 2021 and called an end to the 20th February community transmission event on 20th December 2021 after 10 months of outbreak. The growing spread of the new Omicron variant around the world, however, has prompted governments to be more vigilant, hence vaccinating more people is a top priority. During the handover, the Prime Minister also thanked the Republic of Poland for providing Cambodia with COVID-19 vaccine assistance, stating that the aid from the people and the government of the Republic of Poland will make a significant contribution to the fight against COVID-19 in Cambodia. The European ambassador to Cambodia and representative of the Republic of Poland, Carmen Moreno, stated that under the leadership of Prime Minister Hun Sen, the royal government of Cambodia has had the ability to improve the healthcare system and protect the lives of citizens. She added that today Cambodia is one of the most vaccinated countries in the world and is on the way toward a safe reopening. Cambodia has vaccinated about 90% of its 16 million population, which has enabled the kingdom to control the spread of COVID-19 within the community, reduce hospitalizations and death rates, and maintain the continuance of socioeconomic activities. The vaccines deployed in Cambodia include Sinopharm, AstraZeneca, Sinovac, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and Pfizer. Cambodia began its fourth dose vaccination campaign on 14th January 2022 and has so far reached over 450,000 people. The Asian Development Bank has approved 2 grants worth a total of $6.8 million to help restore tourism, improve the quality and production of rice, and strengthen the rice supply chain in Cambodia after facing the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. EAC News reporter Robin Lim has more.
The ADB grant approval is divided into 2 packages. The first package, worth $3.7 million, is expected to benefit 4,000 communities through the COVID-19 Community-Based Tourism Rehabilitation Project, which covers areas near the Prevahir Heritage Temple in Prevahir Province and Phnom Da Temple in Takao Province. About $3 million of this assistance is provided by the Japan Fund for Prosperous and Resilient Asia and the Pacific. The second $3.9 million aid package will benefit 22,000 smallholder farmers. This package provides an additional funding for climate-resilient rice trade development programs in Battambang, Kampong Thom, and Prey Veng Province. About $3.8 million in grants is coming from the Global Agriculture and Food Security Program, a global fund aimed at reducing hunger and improving nutrition in low-income countries. The acting director of ADB in Cambodia, Anthony Gill, said the 2 grants would boost the Cambodian economy as well as help rice farmers in Cambodia increase their income and resistance to COVID-19. Robin Lim, EAC News.
The Minister of Interior, Deputy Prime Minister Saw King, has said that authorities seized more than 84 tons of chemicals for drug use in 2021, an increase of more than 1,000% compared to 2020. EAC News reporter Robin Lim has more.
Writing on his personal Facebook page, Minister Sar Kang expressed concern over the increase in import of drugs and drug ingredients to Cambodia, saying that in 2021, Cambodia continued to be adversely affected by the negative situation with the high risk of drugs. He said that this problem would not be easy to tackle. The minister revealed some data on drug crackdowns conducted in 2021, which included 6,308 drug crimes, a decrease of 4,153 cases compared to 2020, and a total arrest of 13,973 suspects, including 8,672 suspects in trafficking cases, 5,264 drug users, 9 cultivators, and 39 processors. Among those suspects, 365 were foreigners. He also added that in 2021, the police seized a total of more than 4 tons and 689 kilograms of drugs and cracked down on 53,187 fresh marijuana plants and more than 135 kilograms of dried marijuana, while the drug chemical crackdown of about 84 tons indicated an increase of more than 1,000% from the previous year. The police reported also confiscating a total of 79 firearms during these crackdowns. The minister further wrote saying that although the number of drug cases cracked down on the authorities has decreased, the number of cases of major drug offenses has increased, with a total of about 80 tons of drugs seized, including dangerous large-scale automatic processing machines in Phnom Penh and other provinces bordering Laos, Thailand, and Vietnam, both coming through the post office and maritime imports. The minister has called on all citizens to join the fight against drugs, not to be involved in drugs, not to obstruct the implementation of the law on drug offenders, not to make concession to drug offenders, and to report to the authorities any drug offenses. On January 25, the Minister of Interior blamed a lack of cooperation between drug officials and the ministry in charge of issuing license for the increase of drug traffickers bringing in drugs to Cambodia, and most recently and notably, a total of more than 100 tons that was seized in the third weekend of January. He put pressure on one particular minister that provided these licenses by saying that without meticulous review, this minister would be indebted to the Cambodian people for damaging public health. One day after Minister Sar Kang's remarks, the Minister of Agriculture ordered the General Department of Agriculture of the ministry to pay more attention to the control of chemical fertilizers and pesticides that can be used in drug production, requiring cooperation with the drug authorities to carefully check for the entrance of these chemical fertilizers and drugs into Cambodia. Robin Lim, EAC News.
The Ministry of Environment has expressed concern over the decline in air quality in capitals and provinces across the country, which has increased the concentration of particle pollution in the air beyond the standard, which is a risk to people's health. EAC News reporter Robin Lim has more.
In a statement issued on Monday, the Ministry of Environment said that the source of the increase in PM10 and PM2.5 inert particles was due to the emissions from industrial plants, diesel-based vehicles, burning forests, grasslands and solid waste, and dust from construction sites. The ministry urges all capital and provincial administrations, as well as all departments of environment, to take action in response to the rising problem of air pollution by taking measures to prevent wildfires and control burning of solid waste in the open air, along with burning in landfills and production of dust from construction sites. All relevant stakeholders are further urged to keep streets and public areas clean and to educate people not to engage in the burning of garbage, grass, walls, and other agricultural waste. According to the air quality monitoring data from the Ministry of Environment, Phnom Penh has seen an increase in particle matter concentration every year, steadily increasing from 13.59 micrograms per cubic meter in 2017, 19.26 micrograms per cubic meter in 2018, and 21.12 micrograms per cubic meter in 2019. Although the concentration of inert particles is still below the national standard, the trend of increasing air pollution from year to year in the atmosphere is of high concern and requires much attention and immediate action, since air pollution negatively affects public health, the environment, and subsequently, economic development. Secretary of State and spokesman for the Ministry of Environment, Net Pektra, said that as of Monday, 31st January, the overall air quality in Cambodia was still good despite the steady increase in inertia particle concentration. However, he raised concern about the rise of air pollution in some provinces, which pose a risk to public health and the environment. He said the impact of air pollution is huge because air pollution can spread far and wide and poses a serious health challenge that requires the close attention of all countries around the world. He added that the sources of air pollution are steadily increasing along with the rise in vehicle PM on the road, energy consumption in production processes, services and housing, and the development of infrastructure. The Secretary of State explained that inert particles are compounds of organic and inorganic particles floating in the air, of which the main component includes sulfate, nitrate, ammonia, and black carbon. Particles with a diameter of 2.5 micrograms or smaller are very dangerous to health because they can penetrate and stay deep in the lungs. There are a number of diseases that can be caused by long-term exposure to inert particles, especially to infants and children, such as respiratory diseases, arteriosclerosis, and problems with neurological development and brain functions. According to the World Health Organization, public air pollution kills an estimated 4.2 million people each year worldwide, with the West Pacific and Southeast Asia being the worst affected areas. The Ministry of Environment submitted the Clean Air Plan of Cambodia on 25th January 2022 in order to improve air quality and protect public health and the environment. This strategic document covers key aspects such as air quality status, major air pollution sources, regulations and measures to reduce emissions by sector, measures of emissions that pose health hazards to the national level, and measures to reduce pollution in order to improve air quality, protect public health, and the environment. Robin Lim, EAC News.
The Ministry of Commerce has stated that the price of fuel will continue to rise from the 1st to 15th February, with regular gasoline costs increasing to 4,500 riel or $1.11 per liter, and diesel to 4,250 riel, roughly $1 per liter. This is the third consecutive increase in fuel prices in Cambodia over the last 4 weeks, starting from 1st January 2022. The Ministry of Commerce said in a statement released on Tuesday that oil prices were rising due to fluctuations in international markets. The ministry stated that it does not set the selling price of fuel in Cambodia and only quotes the fluctuation of oil prices in the international market. According to data from the Ministry of Commerce, the price of regular gasoline on 1st January was 4,200 riel per liter and diesel was at 3,800 riel per liter. The Ministry of Commerce announced the increase of fuel prices in February 2022, the third time prices have increased since the start of the year. EAC News hit the streets to gather how citizens were reacting to this news and to understand how increased fuel prices impacts their livelihoods, especially those who rely on transportation.
Wan Saming, a trader selling fresh palm fruit in front of Tuakok Primary School, said that the increase in the price of gasoline had affected her livelihood because she had to transport palm fruit from Kampong Speu province to sell in Phnom Penh every day, which require a lot of gasoline. She said that she now has to pay about 20,000 riel per day for gasoline, compared to before she only paid 10,000 riel per day.
Last year, we spent only 10,000 riel per day, sometimes only 9,000 riel. But this year, we spent more than 20,000 riel per day. I refuel gasoline 2 times a day, 3 liters at a time, 1 time 10,000 riel, so 2 times 20,000 riel. There are consequences because I am making a living every day, relying on gasoline. I have to refuel every morning. My gasoline expenditure is higher than my food expenditure. In general, my spending on gasoline is more than on drinking water.
Motorcyclist Matt Seri said that after the price of gasoline went up, it affected his income because he had to spend more on fuel while his income is still low. He said that in one day, he spends around 17,000 to 18,000 riel, when before he only spent 11,000 to 12,000 riel.
It's affect revenue because our income is less and now the price of gasoline is going up. We have less income because we spend more on gasoline.
A taxi driver, Mr. Sidet, said that the increase in gas prices is affecting his livelihood like everyone else. He said that in the past, he used to refuel his vehicle for $10 a day. Now he still chooses to refuel with gas worth $10 a day, but the amount of gas has reduced due to the increased price.
It's difficult because we run less and refuel more. It has affected me. I pay around $10 for gas, taxi. In the past, it was the same, but we rode for a long time and managed to earn a lot of money. But now, the same amount of money we spend on gas doesn't give us as much as before, and we do not make as much money. It is not very profitable. My gasoline costs are too high because I do not park in one place. I ride to other places, so it costs a lot just in one day. I drive a taxi just to get money for gas and just to make a little profit from customers.
A tuk-tuk driver in front of Tuakok School, Dut Kim Thon, said that rising fuel costs are a global problem, but since his business is small, he has not personally faced many issues.
It has an effect, What if it's a global problem? It's not only us. We only have to follow the procedure in this way. What can we do if it is like that? I have a small business, so it only affects me a little. But for taxi drivers, it can affect a lot because they drive a lot. The Ministry of Commerce has announced that the price of fuel will continue to rise from the 1st to the 15th of February.
The Ministry of Commerce has announced that the price of fuel will continue to rise from 1st to 15th February, with the price of regular gasoline going up to 4,500 riel or $1.11 per liter and diesel going up to 4,250 riel, about $1 per liter. This is the third consecutive increase in oil prices in Cambodia since the beginning of 2022.
The Football Federation of Cambodia will start selling tickets for the ASEAN Football Federation Under-23 Championships of 2022 on 10th February, a positive sign for the resumption of regional football matches after a hiatus of more than 1 year. EAC News reporter Chamrong Ritisit has more.
The ASEAN Under-23 Football Championship AFF U23 will be hosted by Cambodia and will run from 14 February until 26 February 2022. There will be 4 tiers of tickets for sale, with the lowest price starting at $2 up to the highest price of $7.5. The Football Federation of Cambodia has made an announcement saying that despite the reopenings of stadiums, they will only run at half capacity as a COVID-19 safety measure. 2 venues in Phnom Penh are selected for this competition, the Morodok National Stadium and the Prince Stadium. For the championship, Cambodia is in Group A with East Timor, the Philippines and Brunei. Group B features Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar and Laos, while Group C features Thailand, Vietnam and Singapore. Since November 2021, Cambodia has fully reopened in all areas, and sectors of a successful national vaccination campaign reached its target population of those aged 18 and over. Chamrong Ritisit, EAC News.
NATO has no plans to deploy combat troops to non-NATO member Ukraine in the event of a Russian invasion, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has announced on Sunday, January 30th.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has emphasized the limits of NATO's partnership with Ukraine, stating that the security guarantees that an attack on one ally will trigger a response from the whole alliance does not apply to Ukraine, since it is not a NATO ally. Britain's Foreign Secretary Liz Truss also told the BBC's Sunday morning show that it is very unlikely British soldiers would be sent to fight alongside Ukrainian troops in the event of a Russian invasion. Through it was highly likely Russia was looking to invade Ukraine.
We have no plans to deploy NATO combat troops to Ukraine. NATO allies have trainers there. We help them from NATO with building capacity, modernizing their defenses, including their cyber defenses. NATO allies also provide equipment, defensive weapons, like the UK has now provided, for instance, anti-tank weapons. So we do a lot of stuff to help Ukraine strengthen its capability to defend itself. But again, Ukraine is not a NATO ally, so the 100% security guarantees that an attack on one ally will trigger a response from the whole alliance, that applies for NATO allies, not for a close and highly valued partner.
But just to be very clear, you say
we are concerned about the energy situation in Europe because it demonstrates the vulnerability of being too dependent on one supplier of natural gas, and that's the reason why NATO allies agree that we need to work and focus on diversification of supplies. And we also took very carefully note of what the International Energy Agency said recently, that Russia has manipulated the European gas market by holding back supplies.
we think it's highly likely that he is looking to invade Ukraine. That is why we're doing all we can through deterrence and diplomacy to urge him to desist. We don't, it's very unlikely, and the Defence Secretary is being clear about that. But what we are doing is we're training up Ukrainian soldiers.
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. From Monday to Friday, Alexander works as an IT programmer, and Konstantin Semchuk freelances in online advertising. On Saturday, January 29th, the two met others in an abandoned construction site on the outskirts of Kiev to train as Ukrainian army reservists, ready to be called up in the event of any war breaking out with neighboring Russia. Nervous over the threat of some 120,000 Russian troops massed near the border with Ukraine, Kiev has now launched a new territorial defense force this year, which it wants to build up into a corps of up to 130,000 people.
Reservists like Alexander and Semchuk could be tasked with protesting civilian sites in Kyiv amid any conflicts. "I am worried," said Semchuk, the 43-year-old freelancer who has said he had so far avoided any contact with the military after serving a year in the eastern Donbass region in 2014 to 2015 during Ukraine general mobilization. But now, the situation is such that it's needed. While IT programmer Alexander took part in the 2013 to 2014 Maidan mass pro-democracy protest in Kyiv, he had said he did not feel ready to fight when Moscow reacted to the overthrow of Ukraine pro-Russia president by annexing Crimea. "Now, I'm in my mid-30s, and it's time for me to join," he said, saying it was better to do so before it was too late. Saturday trainings has brought together about 70 locals, some in full infantry gears, with hunting rifles and combat experience from Russia's annexations of Crimea in 2014 and conflict with separatist rebel fighting government troops in eastern Ukraine. Others in sneakers and casual sportswear were handed marked wooden rifles. The motley crews of reservists have shared a feeling that Ukraine, formerly a Soviet republic, wanted to decide its own fate independently of its old overlord Moscow. Konstantin has said he wanted to live in a peaceful, flourishing country like Poland, like Czech Republic, like Germany, like all European countries. Although the United States has warned that a military intervention is likely and imminent, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that too much panic is hurting the economies of 41 million people. While Moscow insists it doesn't want a war, it has also dismissed call to withdraw its troops, saying it can deploy them as it sees fit on its own territory. It has cited the Western response as evident that it is the target, not the instigators of aggression.
Authorities are rushing to prevent an oil spill in eastern Thailand from damaging fragile coral, after officials have said on January 30th that the leak that began last week was drifting towards more coastal areas. A beach in eastern Thailand was declared a disaster site on Saturday, as oil leaking from an underwater pipeline in the Gulf of Thailand has continued to wash ashore and blacken the sand, and reaching the beaches of Rayong. The governor of a province in eastern Thailand on Saturday has declared a state of emergency to assist in the cleanup efforts on a beach hit by an oil slick. The Minister of Natural Resources and the Environment, Varawut Silparcha, has said it was crucial to try to prevent the main mass of oil from reaching the shore at Ao Prao, a small bay on Koh Samet, which is a popular resort island. If the oil reaches this area, it could impact the beach and cause heavy damage to the shallow water corals, Varawut has said. The oil began leaking from a pipeline owned by Star Petroleum Refining Public Company Limited late on Tuesday. Before it was brought under control, an estimated 50,000 liters or 13,209 gallons of oil escaped into the ocean 20 kilometers from the coastline of eastern Thailand. Mae Ramphung Beach in Rayong Province has declared a disaster area on Saturday after some oil came ashore on Friday. Most of the oil has formed a thin film rather than a thick oil slick. The Navy has said that about 150 SPRC workers and 200 Navy personnel have been deployed to clean up the beach, and oil boom barriers have also been set up. 12 Navy ships and 3 civilian ships along with a number of aircraft were also working to contain the spill at sea with booms and dispersant spray. February 1st marks a year since the military seized control of Myanmar. The military detained 76-year-old Aung San Suu Kyi and other members of the National League for Democracy, which had been re-elected in a landslide election in November 2020. A state of emergency is declared and Army Chief Min Aung Hlaing takes control. The move has prompted widespread anger in a country which had been making a gradual, if sometimes stuttering, shift towards democracy.
Since seizing power on February 1, 2021, the military regime has used force against the opposition to its rule and failed to secure diplomatic recognition. Myanmar has been in turmoil since the coup against Suu Kyi's democratically elected government led to widespread protests and signaled the end of 10 years of tentative political reforms that followed decades of strict military rule. Protests have emerged within days alongside the mass disobedience movement. Mass civil disobedience is declared with government workers, including teachers and doctors, walking off the job. The police announced the first charges against Aung San Suu Kyi, the illegal use of walkie-talkies 2 days after the coup. In March 2021, troops killed at least 160 people as the military holds a traditional parade to mark Armed Forces Day. About 3,000 villagers from eastern Karen State flee into Thailand after the army launches air attacks on territory controlled by the Karen National Union armed group. On April 1, Aung San Suu Kyi is charged with the offenses under the colonial-era Official Secrets Law. It was also in April that politicians were forced out of office by the military after announcing they have formed a national unity government, and Min Aung Hlaing travels to Jakarta for a summit with Southeast Asian leaders. The Armed Forces Chief signs a 5-point plan to end the violence and seek a solution to the political crisis. Min Aung Hlaing appoints himself Prime Minister in the military's State Administration Council. He repeats a pledge to hold elections by 2023. Myanmar charges Aung San Suu Kyi and 15 others with electoral fraud and lawless actions over the November 2020 elections. A closed court finds elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi guilty of charges of incitement and breaching coronavirus restrictions in the first verdict in a dozen cases brought against the Nobel Prize winner. She is sentenced to 4 years detention at an undisclosed location, but the sentence is later reduced after state TV announces Min Aung Hlaing has given her a pardon. The UN accuses the military of killing dozens of civilians in eastern Myanmar after raiding a village on Christmas Eve. January 7, 2022, the military rolls out the red carpet for Cambodia's Prime Minister Hun Sen as he becomes the first foreign leader to visit Myanmar. Aung San Suu Kyi is given an extra 4 years detention after being found guilty of charges, including a possession of unlicensed walkie-talkies. The military has responded with characteristics force, and nearly 1,500 people have now been killed in the crackdown, according to the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners, a non-profit that has been tracking the unrest. Frustrated with the lack of progress, some people have taken up arms, and the National Unity Government has established by elected lawmakers and pro-democracy groups has set up the People's Defense Force. A year since the coup, with a little sign of international consensus to restore the civilian government, the situation looks increasingly precarious.
Myanmar's military ruler Min Aung Hlaing has extended a state of emergency for another 6 months on the basis of facilitating promised elections, state media has reported on Monday 31st January, a day before the 1-year anniversary of the military coup.
Myanmar's military government would strive to hold new elections once the situation was peaceful and stable without giving a date. It was necessary to set the right track for the genuine, disciplined, multi-party democracy, Min Aung Hlaing has said in an interview where he has talked about the threat, internal and external saboteurs and terrorist attacks from destruction. Security forces cracked down in the dissent have killed at least 1,500 people and arrested 11,838 since the coup. According to the Assistance Association of Political Prisoners, an activist group has cited by the United Nations. The Southeast Asia country has been in chaos since the Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi and other figures from the National League for Democracy Party were rounded up in raids, accused by the junta of rigging the 2020 elections that the NLD won.
More than 30 heads of state are to join China's President Xi Jinping for the opening ceremony. Russia's Vladimir Putin is among the confirmed guests for the February 4th event, including the King of Cambodia, His Royal Highness King Norodom Sihamoni.
China's President Xi Jinping will also host banquets for visiting dignitaries, but the only bilateral meeting announced so far is with Russia's President Vladimir Putin. China's leader will officiate at the opening ceremony of the Beijing Winter Olympics on Friday and host diplomatic activities for visiting foreign dignitaries over the weekend. China's foreign ministry has confirmed Xi would hold welcome banquets from February 4 to 6 for dignitaries attending the game's opener, which will include more than 30 heads of state, government officials, royal families, and international organizations. The list of visiting dignitaries includes Russian President Vladimir Putin, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, Abu Dhabi's Crown Prince Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan. The presidents of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Poland, Serbia, Singapore, Argentina, Ecuador, and Mongolia will also be in Beijing, along with UN Chief Antonio Guterres, UN General Assembly President Abdullah Shahid, and World Health Organization Head Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus. Royals including Thailand's Princess Maha Chakri Sirindorn and Prince Albert II of Monaco are also among the attendees. The King of Cambodia, His Royal Highness King Norodom Sihamoni. The presence of these dignitaries comes despite a boycott by multiple Western nations, including the US, UK, and Canada, because of concerns about China's human rights record. Beijing denies any wrongdoing and has termed the allegations of rights violations a political virus used by the West to malign China.
And now for a look at news making international headlines this Monday, 31st January.
A 6-car deadly crash in North Las Vegas on Saturday, January 29, took the life of 9 when a Dodge Challenger traveling at a high rate of speed ran through a red light and crashed with multiple vehicles at an intersection. 6 others were injured.
Today at 3 p.m., officers received a call about a traffic collision involving multiple vehicles in the area of Cheyenne and Commerce, in reference to multiple vehicles involved in a collision. Upon arrival, officers did locate the traffic collision, and with that, I'm going to update you a little bit more details. Preliminary investigation revealed the following. A Dodge Challenger was traveling northbound on Commerce, approaching the intersection at a high rate of speed. Upon that, witnesses stated that the Dodge Challenger did run a red light and struck multiple vehicles, causing a chaotic event. As for the vehicles involved, it involves a maroon Dodge Challenger, a white Toyota Seneca, a white Ford Fusion, a tan Chevy Malibu, a white Hyundai Tucson, and a white Mercedes SUV. Some of the vehicles, after being struck, were pushed into the northeast lot, a vacant lot at that, of the intersection. A total of 15 people were involved in this incident. There has been a total confirmed of 9 deceased, ages ranging from young juveniles to middle-aged adults. 2 people were transported to UMC in reference to their injuries. 1 person remains in critical condition, while the other one has succumbed to their injuries.
The driver of the Dodge Challenger was among the dead, police has confirmed, adding that speed is a factor in the crash that took place on Saturday afternoon. The ages of those who died, 1 juvenile and middle-aged adults. In total, 15 people were involved in the incident. 1 person remained in the critical condition at the University Medical Center.
A drone footage saw an oil spreading around the parts of Ecuador affected by the ruptures of a crude pipeline. Black oil could be seen flowing into the river in the Piedrafina area. The pipeline has burst on Friday, January 28, in Ecuador Amazon, where regressing erosions have caused the OCP Ecuador pipeline and the state-owned SOTE pipeline to halt pumping in December, forcing the government to declare force majeure over its oil export and productions. OCP Ecuador, the operators of the pipeline, has said on Friday that the pipeline burst in an area which is not directly exposed to the rivers, and that is control the oil flow. However, indigenous organization Confini has said community were already being affected.
North Korea has launched another suspected ballistic missile into the sea off its east coast on Sunday, 30th January, governments in the region have reported, in what would be the nuclear-armed country's 7th test this month. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff have reported that a projectile believed to be a single ballistic missile was launched at around 7:52 a.m. on Sunday from North Korea's Jagang province toward the ocean off its east coast. The Japanese government has also said North Korea launched a possible ballistic missile. Jagang province was the site of 2 earlier launches this month of what North Korea called hypersonic missiles, which can reach high speeds while maneuvering at relatively low altitudes. If this missile launch is also confirmed, it could make January the busiest month ever for North Korea's missile program, which analysts say is expanding and developing new capabilities despite strict sanctions and United States Security Council resolutions that ban the country's ballistic missile tests. Japanese government spokesperson Chief Cabinet Secretary Hirokazu Matsuno said during a televised briefing that if the projectile was a standard ballistic missile, it is estimated to have reached an altitude of 2,000 kilometers and flown for 30 minutes over a distance of 800 kilometers. Analysts say if confirmed, those numbers could indicate one of the largest missile tests by North Korea in years. North Korea has not tested its longest-range intercontinental ballistic missiles or nuclear weapons since 2017, but the country's rulers suggested that this month they could restart those activities. The CEO of Korea Risk Group, Chad O'Carroll, wrote on Twitter that all signs suggest this is a big test, not performing as well as prior North Korean ICBMs, but could have been deliberately flown on a more limited trajectory. The tests come less than a week before the opening of the Winter Olympics in Beijing, which is North Korea's main political and economic partner. Pyongyang has said it would be skipping the games because of the COVID-19 pandemic and hostile forces. In an address ahead of the new year, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un called for bolstering the military with cutting-edge technology at a time when talks with South Korea and the United States have stalled. Since then, North Korea has conducted a series of launches displaying a dizzying array of weapon types, launch locations, and increasing sophistication. From hypersonic missiles and long-range cruise missiles to missiles launched from railcars and airports, the tests highlight the nuclear-armed state's rapidly expanding and advancing arsenal amid stalled denuclearization talks. The ballistic missile launch and the ones before it are a threat to our country, the region, and the international community, Secretary Matsuno said, adding that these series of launches violate UN resolutions and are strongly protested. The tests appear aimed at modernizing North Korea's military, bolstering national pride ahead of several major North Korean holidays, and sending a message of strength as the country grapples with economic crises caused by sanctions and COVID-19 lockdowns, said Leif Erik Easley, a professor of international studies at Ewha University in Seoul. The Kim regime hears external discussions of its domestic weaknesses and sees South Korea's growing strength, he said. So it wants to remind Washington and Seoul that trying to topple it would be too costly. Its latest launches have included a test of 2 short-range ballistic missiles and their warheads on Thursday, and an update to a long-range cruise missile system was tested on Tuesday. Pyongyang has defended the launches as its sovereign right of self-defense and say they are not directed at any specific country, but accused Washington and Seoul of having hostile practices. Kim Jong-un visited a munitions factory last week, where he called for an all-out drive to produce powerful cutting-edge arms, and its workers touted his devotion to smashing the challenges of the U.S. imperialists and their vassal forces, seeking to violate their right to self-defense, calling it the harshest ever adversity. And now for a look at news making international headlines this Tuesday, 1st of February.
About 1,400 U.S. flights were canceled early on Sunday, January 30, after the northeastern part of the country was walloped by a first winter storm a day earlier. Several U.S. states had declared emergencies in response to the storm, which formed in the Atlantic Ocean off the Carolinas and has continued depositing snow until Sunday morning as it moved north to Maine. The total number of flights cancellation within, into, or out of the United States was about 1,400 as of 10:30 a.m., according to flight tracking website FlightAware.com. Another 647 U.S.-related flights were delayed, the data has showed. The LaGuardia Airport and the John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York City and the Boston Logan International Airport each had over 200 flight cancellations as of early Sunday. The first winter storm on Saturday has dropped more than 2 feet of snow on some areas while packing high winds, prompting thousands of flight cancellations and leading governors in Rhode Island and other states to curtail access to the roads.
An aerial footage from Brazil shows the destruction brought by heavy rains in Franco de Rocha, Sao Paulo State on Sunday, January 30. Landslides and flooding from heavy rains in Sao Paulo State have killed at least 21 people since Friday, including 7 children and destroyed homes. Sao Paulo Governor João Doria flew over the flooded areas on Sunday, and he has said that he has authorized $42.79 million of emergency aid for the affected cities. Since December, heavy rains have triggered deadly floods in northeast Brazil, threatened to delay harvests in the Midwest, and briefly forced suspension of mining operations in the state of Minas Gerais.
The National Weather Service Miami, South Florida warned the public on Sunday, January 30th, that immobilized iguanas could fall from trees due to cold temperatures across the region. Iguanas are cold-blooded. They slow down or become immobile when temperatures drop into the 40s. They may fall from trees, but they are not dead, the service said on their social media. Zoologist Stacy Cohen, a reptile expert at Palm Beach Zoo in Florida, has explained the phenomenon to ABC affiliate WPBF. Cohen says iguanas' bodies basically start to shut down and lose their functions during temperature drops. They'll be up in the branches asleep, and then when it gets cold, they suddenly lose the ability to stay hanging on and then fall out of the trees a lot. Although most of these reptiles will likely survive this period of immobilization, Cohen also added that freezing temperatures were a threat to their survival and pointed to a cold snap in 2010 that wiped out a large number of the iguana population. Cold is a very life-threatening thing for the iguanas because they are from parts of Central and South America close to the equator where it always stays very warm. According to the National Weather Service, temperature in South Florida reached a low of 25 degrees Fahrenheit or -4 degrees Celsius on Sunday morning, and high temperatures on Sunday were expected to remain in the upper 50s to low 60s, around 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. And now for a look at news-making international headlines this Wednesday, 2nd February.
Rescuers have pulled bodies out from under thick mud on Tuesday, February 1, after a landslide in Ecuador's capital, Quito, left at least 22 people dead, with 47 have reported injured so far. On Tuesday morning, rescuers have continued searching homes and streets covered by mud and removing bodies buried in the area. Torrential rains on Monday night, January 31st, has caused a build-up of water in a gorge near the working-class neighborhoods of La Gasca and La Comuna, sending mud and rocks down on residences and affecting electricity provision. A muddy river flowing through neighborhood streets, carrying with it trees, vehicles, dumpsters, and even electricity poles, as residents screamed for help. Authorities have not ruled out the possibility of further landslides. The mayor's office has set up shelters for affected families and has started clearing streets in the city. Ecuador is facing heavy rains in several areas, which have caused rivers to overflow and affected hundreds of homes and roads. Rains in Quito on Monday were equivalent to 75 liters per square meter, the highest figure in nearly 2 decades. More than 100 emergency workers have gone to the scene, cleaning debris using heavy machinery, and were searching for survivors. Emergency worker Christian Rivera has said he expected the death toll to rise. He has mentioned that there are still tons of mud. Missing people have been reported.
A missing Japanese F-15 frontline fighter is believed to have crashed and its 2 crew members remain unaccounted for. Japan has announced on Tuesday, February 1st. The Japan Air Self-Defense Force jet has disappeared from air traffic control radar on Monday, January 31st, shortly after takeoff around 5 kilometers from Komatsu Air Base on the Sea of Japan's coast, which has 2 tactical fighter squadrons, according to the Defense Ministry. Speaking to reporters, Defense Minister Nobuo Kishi has dismissed an early media report that one of the pilots has been found. Search and rescue helicopters and 3 Coast Guard ships have continued their search after earlier finding aircraft debris in the sea, the Japan Coast Guard said in a press release.
Plans to build Albania's biggest airport could destroy one of Europe's most spectacular sanctuaries for giant birds, where the noise of trucks and excavators is already scaring away pelicans and flamingos, ornithologists say. The picturesque Vjosanarta Lagoon in the shadow of Albania's Thunderbolt Mountains on the Adriatic Sea is a crucial stop for flocks of birds on their annual migration between Europe and Africa. It was declared a protected nesting and migration area in 2004 and is home to 200 bird species. The government says a new airport on the lagoon will boost tourism along Albania's pristine Adriatic coast and complies with environmental rules. The Tourism and Environment Minister, Mirella Kumbaro, has said, "We have respected every step, every timeline, and every procedure of the Albanian law, whether that is for the public consultations or how it will impact the environment." The main firm building the airport, Swiss-based Mabetex, did not respond to emails and phone messages seeking comment. Bird watchers describe this part of Albania as one of the best places in Europe to see flocks of giant pink flamingos take flight. An ornithologist from the group Birds of Albania, Mirjan Topi, has said the lagoon on any given day is home to around 1.5% of the entire global population of majestic Dalmatian pelicans, one of the world's largest flying birds, which are in danger of extinction. He also said that the safety of the aircraft would be a concern due to the danger of collisions with birds. According to the International Monetary Fund in 2019, before the COVID-19 pandemic, tourism accounted for 18% of Albania's economic output and generated 1 in every 10 jobs. But if the aim is to boost tourism, 28-year-old Arsen Lambro, who runs a fish restaurant near the lagoon, says it would be a mistake to destroy the local grandeur for an airport. He said, "What will the tourists find here? It is not only the food, but it is the area that will bring tourists."
EAC News fully supports the Royal Government of Cambodia's preventative and administrative measures against COVID-19. But we need you to play your part in helping bring the 20 February community transmission event to an end. Wash your hands regularly, sanitize wherever possible. Keep an eye on your body temperature. Use the Stop COVID QR code and maintain a safe social distance. But above all, please, please, please wear a mask. Only together can we beat COVID-19. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
Authorities in Sihanoukville have arrested 6 Vietnamese suspects, including 1 woman, in connection with cases of kidnapping, detention, torture, extortion, and illegal possession of firearms. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
Sihanouk Provincial Commissioner Chun Norin has said that the 6 suspects were arrested at 10:30 p.m. on 30th of January 2022 after driving past a police checkpoint in Prinop district trying to escape. The police chased the suspects and were able to intercept them. During the inspection, the police found 2 gas guns, 11 pairs of handcuffs, 2 electric buttons, and 3 electric flashlights. After their arrest, the suspects confessed to kidnapping 3 Vietnamese women in Phnom Penh for more than $35,000 on 14th of January 2022 before fleeing to Sihanoukville. Authorities continue to investigate the case. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen told the commander of the Thai army, Narongpan Chitkaewtay, that the relationship between Cambodia and Thailand is deeper and more trusting between the two-country army. He added that the army should act as a diplomatic force to maintain peace and stability, to give people along the border the confidence to do business, and make the border a zone of peace and development. In a meeting with Mr. Narongpan Chitkaewtay at the office of the Council of the Ministers on the afternoon of 3 February 2022, Prime Minister congratulated Mr. Narongpan, who was awarded the Medal of Cooperation by the King, and expressed satisfaction with the relationship between the two-country army. Prime Minister suggested that in order for the border to become a zone of peace, the army must be an army of diplomacy and peace. Prime Minister Personal Assistant Mr. Ieng Supalait told reporters after the meeting. Prime Minister added that the army need to play the role of a diplomatic army to maintain peace, stability, increase the trust of the people along the border, have confidence in doing business, promote development along the border, turn the border into a border of peace, friendship, and development. During the meeting, the commander of the Thai army, Narongpan Chitkaewtay, announced that he would maintain good relations with the Cambodian military and promised to always cooperate with the Cambodian army to maintain peace and stability between the two countries. Mr. Narongpan Chitkaewtay paid his first 2-day visit to Cambodia. During the 2 visits, he signed the term of reference TOR between the two countries' army, which is an important document to enhance cooperation in all fields within the framework of the army to a higher level. Cambodia and Thailand share an international border of 817 kilometers from the Gulf of Thailand in the south to Laos in the northeast. In 2011, the two countries clashed one when the Thai troops invaded of Cambodia's Pravihir area. Sray Bokong, EAC News.
The 2022 ASEAN chairmanship issued a statement on Wednesday that reaffirmed ASEAN member states' support for Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn as the special envoy of the ASEAN chair on Myanmar, and also further urged Myanmar to be ready to receive the special envoy's visit as soon as possible so that the ASEAN 5-point consensus can be implemented. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
The statement from the ASEAN chair included that for the past year, ASEAN members have been concerned about the situation of violence of the humanitarian aid in Myanmar and further reaffirmed its commitment to assist Myanmar in adhering the 5-point consensus and the Asian Charter. With that understanding, the last piece of the national reconciliation can only be achieved through the common political solution. The statement highlighted that the ASEAN member states welcome the appointment of His Excellency Prak Sokhonn and the Special Envoy of the Asian Chair of Myanmar, and call on Myanmar authorities to facilitate missions of the Special Envoy of the Asian Chair, beginning with the first visit to Myanmar as soon as possible to meet with all parties concerned in order to move forward the implement of the 5PC. ASEAN's 5-point consensus of Myanmar calls for an end to the violence, the establishment and multilateral dialogue, accepted coordination of Asian special envoys, the provision of humanitarian aid to allow the special envoy visits Myanmar. During the Prime Minister Hun Sen's official state visit to Myanmar on the 7th to 8th of January, military leader Min Aung Hlaing promised that the military government would extend its ceasefire until the end of 2022, facilitate and processes of receiving aid from ASEAN, and also facilitate the visit of the Asian Special Envoy to Myanmar to meet with all parties involved in the ongoing conflict, including with ethnic armed groups. On 26th of January, Prime Minister Hun Sen once again spoke with the military leader and reminded Min Aung Hlaing to be patient and respect his promises to implement the 5 points of Asian consensus. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The permanent mission of the Kingdom of Cambodia to the United Nations office has denied the statements of 3 special rapporteurs regarding the National Internet Gateway, saying that the establishment of this new sub-decree is in accordance with the principles of law, necessity, and proportion. EAC News reporter Robin Lim has more.
The Cambodian ambassador An Sakun described the creation of the National Internet Gateway as a mechanism that adheres to the principles of legality, necessity, and proportionality, and contributes to the realization of Cambodia's vibrant digitalization, which is a driving force of growth and development in the kingdom. In a statement made by a UN panel of experts, Special Reporter Vitet Mantorborn, Irene Kan, and Mary Lawlor urged Cambodian authorities to suspend plans to implement the sub-decree on the Internet Gateway, stating that it was restrictive and undermined Cambodia's privacy and democratic freedoms. Cambodian ambassador and permanent representative to the UN in Geneva, An Sakun, told EAC News that the allegations made by the UN Special Reporter were biased and baseless accusations. He said that this new law is needed to be equally competitive with other countries and to help prevent crimes such as online gambling and illegal pornographic websites. The sub-decree on the Internet Gateway prepared the Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications in 2021 is scheduled to enter into force on 16th February of 2022. In a statement issued on 1st of February in Geneva, the permanent mission emphasized that the enactment of the Internet Gateway law is not new in the world, and that its purpose is to facilitate and regulate internet connectivity, strengthen national security, tax collection, and to help maintain social order and protect national culture. The statement emphasized that it is in line with the International Covenant on the Civil and Political Rights, in which certain restrictions provided by law may apply if they are necessary. The permanent mission further wrote saying, no provision in the National Internet Gateway Sub-Decree authorizes collection of consumers' data or individual surveillance. Any handling of connection and technical operation is secure and encrypted in accordance with international standards. To safeguard people's rights to privacy, a law on personal data protection will be crafted and consulted with wide-ranging stakeholders. The permanent mission urged the 3 UN reporters to divert their attention to the worrying trends of human rights challenges, namely hate speech, slander, disinformation, incitement, vaccine discrimination, and provocation to sedition under the guise of freedom of expression, rather than make accusations and interfere with internal affairs of sovereign states. Robin Lim, EAC News.
A multi-skilled engineering force accompanied by 184 Cambodian Blue Helmet deminers was sent to the United Nations mission in the Republic of Lebanon on Wednesday to replace the old force that completed its first-year mission. EAC News reporter Straipor Kong has more.
The Cambodian Blue Helmet Army is on a mission in Lebanon to complete the construction of strongholds for Blue Helmet troops from other countries, build blue posts along the Lebanese-Israel border, and to continue daily demining work. This was confirmed by the Vice Chairman of the National Committee and Director General of the National Peacekeeping Center, General Sam Suwani, during the departure ceremony of the Cambodian Blue Helmets at Phnom Penh International Airport on Wednesday. For the last 16 years from 2006 to present, the National Peacekeeping Center in Cambodia has sent a total of 8,083 Blue Helmet troops, including 542 women, for 11 missions in 9 countries, including Sudan, South Sudan, Lebanon, Chad, Cyprus, Syria, Mali, and Yemen. The Vice Chairman continued that the Cambodian Blue Helmet Force were embarking on this mission in response to a commitment made by Prime Minister Hun Sen to increase the participation of these troops both in quantity and quality, in line with the new UN reforms. Sri Pokung, EAC News.
The Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports has announced that it will no longer accept complaints and appeals from candidates regarding their results from the recent high school baccalaureate exam and will be keeping the results the same. EAC News reporter Chamrong Ritisit has more.
The ministry made this announcement after the completion of a forensic investigation into the result of the baccalaureate exam on 27 December 2021. The forensic committee concluded after the investigation that the result would not be changed. The ministry stated that it encouraged students who failed the exam to study hard with the support of teachers, parents, guardians, and the community to succeed in the exam next year. The result of the high school baccalaureate exam were announced on 14-15 January 2022, with a total of 72,016 candidates receiving passing marks, which is close to 66% of 114,187 candidates who took the exam. Jumbrong Retiset, EAC News.
The royal government of Cambodia has announced its commitment to prevent deaths due to COVID-19 by accelerating the vaccination of COVID-19 vaccines to all citizens. EAC News reporter Chamrong Ritisit has more.
In a press release issued by the plenary sessions of the Councils of Ministers on Friday, 4th February, Prime Minister stated in the meeting that the Ministries of Health, relevant ministries, and institutions must continue to accelerate the 3rd dose of vaccinations of all people, continue to promote the 4th dose of vaccination campaign for civil servants, and call on all citizens who have not been vaccinated to come and receive the vaccine quickly at the designated site to increase immunity in the community. The royal government has also seen progress of economic recovery, which has led to an increase in tax revenue and the resumption of economic activities, which is a good development for the Kingdom of Cambodia to guarantee past expenditures. It has also far been 31 days that no deaths because of COVID-19 have been reported in the Kingdom of Cambodia. Jumbrong Retiset, EAC News.
The Phnom Penh Municipal Administration has asked citizens who self-test positive for COVID-19 to report to the authorities so a medical team can come to assess the patient's condition and location before authorizing their home treatment or instructing them to go to the hospital. Phnom Penh authorities have further warned to take legal action against those who refuse to report to health officials or local authorities about their positive COVID-19 case. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
In the supplementary guidelines on the enhancement of management care of treatment of COVID-19 patients at home in Phnom Penh, it is stated that the patients with permission of home treatment of COVID-19, including those of Omicron variant who have mild symptoms or an asymptomatic, will have to agree to have authorities place a sign in front of their homes, including their positive status. Phnom Penh authorities warn citizens that they will take legal action against those who fail to report their positive COVID-19 status and will try to privately treat themselves at home, and also ask neighbours to report any suspected cases to the authorities. The instruction added, the Phnom Penh Capital Administration encourages and requests that the neighbours living near the home of the suspect COVID-19 patient who is secretly receiving medical treatment without evaluation and permission to immediately report the health official or any nearest local authority and the Phnom Penh Municipal Administration to ensure confidentially so that the local authority can take time action to avoid transmitting of the COVID-19 virus, especially the Omicron variant, in the local community they live. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The Ministry of Health has announced the discovery of a positive COVID-19 case in a pregnant former Naga World employee who had been engaging in the demonstration in front of the Australian Embassy. The ministry has now given protesters 3 days to provide their samples for COVID-19 testing, with the threat of legal action. EAC News reporter Straipor Kong has more.
In a press release issued on Friday, the Ministry of Health stated that a female protester went for a prenatal checkup on 28 January 2022 and was found to be positive for COVID-19. The woman's sample was taken to be tested at the Institut Pasteur du Cambodge, where it was confirmed to be the Omicron variant. To prevent the spread of this new variant, the ministry is requiring all protesters to go and get tested and provide their sample at designated location in Koh Pek, otherwise known as Diamond Island, within 3 days' notice. The Ministry of Health has warned that those individuals who do not implement health and administrative measures shall be punished in accordance with the law or measure to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and other serious and dangerous infectious diseases in force. Article 10 of the law and measure to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and other deadly and infectious diseases stated a fine of 1 million to 5 million riel will be imposed on those who do not comply with state measures, a 6-month to 3-year long prison sentence, as well as a fine of 2 to 10 million riel if this non-compliant causes transmission of COVID-19 to others, and a 2 to 5-year prison sentence, plus a fine of 5 to 20 million riel if this action causes serious harm to public health. Responding to the announcement of the Ministry of Health, Nagawar protester Jamrotha said that the protesters have not yet decided on whether to go and get a COVID-19 test, as they have to discuss together as a group first. Because the protesters do not trust the ministry measure and believe that this could be just an excuse by the authority to disperse the protesters. Jamrotha was quoted saying, "We see that our gathering at the strike site for the past 48 to 49 days has got authority of the Ministry of Labor coming to break our advocacy demands. So we do not have confidence in the order for COVID-19 tests. We do not have confidence in whether the tests will be carried out in a transparent and fair process for us strikers." The protester added that the pregnant woman who was found positive with the Omicron variant had not been involved in the strike for a long time. Sri Pokong, EAC News.
The president of the Japan-Cambodia Association and former Japanese ambassador to Cambodia, Takahashi Fumiyaki, promised to take up Cambodia's proposal to establish a free trade agreement between Cambodia and Japan, and to submit the proposal to the government of Japan for consideration of expanding trade and investment to Cambodia. EAC News reporter Straipor Kong has more.
The desire for free trade between Cambodia and Japan was stated by the Minister of Commerce Pan Sosa during a working meeting with the Japan-Cambodia Associate President on Thursday. The talks were aimed at strengthening cooperation between the two countries and promoting a better business environment. During the meeting, Minister Pan Sosa highlighted some instances of past cooperation that has improved trade and investment between Cambodia and Japan. The minister emphasized that with this strategic partnership and cooperation, Japan has made significant contribution to Cambodia's economic development through the rehabilitation of infrastructure, the provision of human resource development programs, and the strengthening of economic relations in the field of tourism, trade, and investment in many other sectors. The Minister of Commerce added that Japanese investors have come to Cambodia and brought the flow of technology, knowledge, and skill through foreign direct investment (FDI) and official development assistance (ODA). He further mentioned how the ASEAN-Japanese Comprehensive Economic Partnership (AJCEP) has accelerated the response to economic development between Cambodia and Japan through the provision of free trade, services, and investment. Some of the results highlighted by Minister Pan Sosa during the meeting included the import of Cambodian products to Japan, reaching about $1.5 billion in August 2021. According to the General Department of Customs and Excise, and also underlying export potential such as garment and furniture, as well as footwear, textile, and other consumer goods. The minister also added that Cambodia imports 400 to 500 tons of raw seal from Japan per year to produce handicraft products for export to major markets including Thailand, Vietnam, China, and Japan. He continued that the Japanese market will become Cambodia's largest import market for seal products by 2020, amounting to $1.5 million. The minister called on Japanese businessmen, entrepreneurs, and investors to consider Cambodia as a business partner and investment destination, as the royal government of Cambodia has ensured stability, peace, and politics, as well as a favorable investment and business environment for Japanese investors. In response, the president of Cambodia Japanese Association expressed his appreciation for the royal government of Cambodia's effort to ensure peace and social stability, especially the success of the national COVID-19 vaccination campaign. In addition to promising to submit a free trade proposal to the government of Japan, he also expressed support for the development of Japanese investment in seal value chains in target provinces, as well as a continued commitment to have Japanese investors support development in Cambodia. Minister Pan So-sak noted that this working meeting acts as a step toward building a roadmap for future cooperation between Cambodia and Japan, and will be a target indicator for the Ministry of Commerce and Cambodia-Japan Association to achieve the goal of boosting the production and export of small and medium enterprises and producers when a bilateral free trade agreement is established between the two countries. Sri Pokong, EAC News.
The Ministry of Water Resources and Meteorology has called on people to save water, especially in remote rural areas, because the forecast in 2022 shows that the amount of rainfall will likely not be enough to meet water demands. The first weather forecast for the 2021-2022 dry season and the beginning of the 2022 rainy season states that the 2022 rainy season in the lowlands and the coastal areas may begin in the first week of May and in the highlands in the second week of May. According to the Ministry of Water Resources, although there may be heavy rainfall in the early rainy season, the amount of forecasted rainfall will likely not be able to meet the immediate needs. Therefore, the ministry urges people to continue to conserve and use water sparingly, especially in remote rural areas far from water resources. The Phnom Penh Water Supply Authority has announced that from 2023, Phnom Penh and Tak Mau will no longer lack clean water after another new water treatment plant is built. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
The Phnom Penh Water Supply Authority has stated that due to the increase of economic activity in Phnom Penh, the demand of clean water has exceeded the current production capacity. The demand is about 800,000 cubic metres per day, meaning there is shortage of clean water for distribution during the high water demand, especially in the suburbs of Phnom Penh and Tak Mau, since there is currently only 4 locations producing an average of 600,000 cubic metres of clean water per day. In response to this issue, the Water Supply Authority is building a new water treatment plant in Bak Kang, which can produce an additional 400,000 cubic metres of clean water per day from the beginning of 2023. The Water Supply Authority report that from 2023 onwards, it will have the capacity to produce 1 million cubic metres of clean water per day, closing the water storage that citizens have experienced in Phnom Penh and Tak Mau for the past 7 years. At the same time, the Water Supply Authority has also called on people to save clean water and to share water with others, especially those living in the suburbs. This statement comes after the Water Supply Authority received complaints from residents of some of the suburbs over the lack of clean water, which has affected their livelihoods in recent weeks. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
Myanmar's ruling junta has murdered and tortured civilians while waging a campaign of terror in the year since taking power, the UN human rights expert on Myanmar has boldly said on Tuesday, February 1st, as he called for a tightening of sanctions.
A former US congressman serving in the Independent Post, Tom Andrews, has said in a written statement that he had received more reports of mass killings, attacks on hospitals and humanitarian targets, and the bombing and burning of villages in recent months. The military is committing crimes against humanity and war crimes against the people of Myanmar, Andrews had said. A spokesman for the junta did not respond to cause-seeking comment. Andrews had added in his statement to the military junta is functioning as a criminal enterprise, seizing the assets and stealing revenue that rightfully belong to the people of Myanmar. The military are using the resources to buy the means of systematically attack the people of Myanmar. This must be stopped.
Today, 1 year after the attempted coup was launched, I am urging all of us, member states of the United Nations, and everyone who cares about human rights, justice, and decency, to take a moment to reflect on what has transpired in the last 12 months within Myanmar and the international response. I am strongly recommending that we consider a new, more robust course of action before it is too late. The military is committing crimes against humanity and war crimes against the people of Myanmar. And the world must recognize that behind the growing statistics, real people are suffering. Let's be clear. The military junta of Myanmar is functioning as a criminal enterprise, seizing the assets and stealing revenue that rightfully belong to the people of Myanmar. They are then using these resources to buy the means to systematically attack the people of Myanmar. This must be stopped.
We have documented 1,500 people who have been killed, but this is only in the context of protests. So killings of protesters, killings in the context of protests, which means where security forces have entered people's homes, conducted raids and killed them. And these also include people who were killed while in custody, while in military custody. Some 200 of them were killed due to torture in military custody. This 1,500 does not include people who were killed due to the armed conflict. On that, we have not been able to collect or to verify any figures. We do understand that they are in the thousands. At least 11,787 people have been arbitrarily detained, and this is for voicing their opposition to the military, whether in peaceful protests or through online activities even. Some of them have been released, and 8,792 remain in custody as of today.
The United States, Britain and Canada imposed new sanctions on Myanmar's military after a year of chaos. Andrews has called again for the UN Security Council to impose a comprehensive arms embargo on Myanmar. At least 1,500 people have known to have been killed in the year-long protest against the coup, with thousands more possibly killed in the armed conflict, the UN Human Rights Office said on Tuesday. Myanmar's ruling junta has disputed similar past estimates of the death toll and numbers in custody made by rights groups.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's wife and influential aunt made a rare appearance in state media on Wednesday, February 2nd, as the ruling family has maintained a low profile during the coronavirus pandemic.
Kim's wife, Ri Sol-ju, and his aunt, Kim Chung-hui, have attended an art performance at the Mansudae Art Theatres in the capital of Pyongyang on Tuesday, February 1st, celebrating the Lunar New Year's holiday. Ri was last seen publicly on September 9, 2021, when she has joined her husband in visiting the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun, which houses and embalms bodies of Kim's late grandfathers and fathers on the anniversaries of the country's founding. Kim Jong-hui was a key figure in the young leader's first years in power, but had disappeared from media after he orders the executions of her powerful husband, Jang Sung-taek, over treason charges in 2013. She made a surprise comeback 6 years later.
The outbreak of coronavirus disease, or COVID-19, was first reported from Wuhan, China on 31st December 2019. The COVID-19 pandemic has led to an increased demand for single-use plastic that intensifies pressure on an already out-of-control global plastic waste problem. While it is suspected to be large, the magnitude and fate of this pandemic-associated mismanaged plastic waste are still unknown.
Discarded syringes, used test kits, and old vaccine bottles from the COVID-19 pandemic have piled up to create tens of thousands of tons of medical waste, threatening human health and the environment, a World Health Organization report has said on Tuesday. The recent COVID-19 pandemic has led to an increased demand for single-use plastic, intensifying pressure on this already out-of-control problem. This work shows that more than 8 million tons of pandemic-associated plastic waste have been generated globally, with more than 25,000 tons entering the global ocean. Most of the plastic is from medical waste generated by hospitals that dwarfs the contribution from personal protection equipment. This poses a long-lasting problem for the ocean environment and is mainly accumulated on beaches and coastal sediments. The material, a portion of which could be infectious since coronavirus can survive on surfaces, potentially exposes health workers to burns, needle stick injuries, and disease-causing germs, the report has also said. Communities close to poorly managed landfills can also be affected through contaminated air from burning waste, poor water quality, or disease-carrying pests, it has added.
One of the really important findings is that we found that COVID-19 has increased healthcare waste loads in facilities to up to 10 times current volumes. And if you consider that 2 in 3 healthcare facilities in the least developed countries didn't have systems to segregate or safely treat waste before the pandemic, you can just imagine how much burden this extra waste load has put on healthcare workers, on surrounding communities, especially where waste is burned with the release of dioxins and furans. In terms of volume of waste, we actually found that gloves were a bigger volume than masks, which is rather interesting given that gloves are, for the most part, a non-essential PPE for COVID. So that is an obvious area where we could reduce waste. Overall, the vaccine waste is now taking over PPE waste in terms of volumes, just because there's so many vaccinations happening, which is a good thing. So we're not obviously recommending that we reduce vaccinations or reduce the essential PPE. But in terms of the risk of waste in COVID, it's quite low from what we know about the virus and its survival in the environment. It's really other risks in the healthcare waste, especially when waste is not segregated. Typically about 80% of waste is non-infectious, but if you're not segregating, you potentially are contaminating all your waste.
The report calls for reform and investment, including through the reduction in the use of packaging that has caused a rush for plastic and the use of protective gear made from reusable and recyclable materials. It estimates that some 87,000 tons of personal protective equipment, or PPE, or the equivalent of the weight of several hundreds blue whales, has been ordered via a United Nations portal up until November 2021, most of which is thought to have ended up as waste. The report also mentions some 140 million test kits with the potential to generate 2,600 tons of mostly plastic trash and enough chemical waste to fill 1/3 of an Olympic swimming pool. In addition, it estimates that some 8 billion vaccine doses administered globally have produced an additional 144,000 tons of waste in the form of glass vials, syringes, needles, and safety boxes.
And now for a look at news-making international headlines this Friday, 4th February.
26 people have died after a high-tension power cable snapped and fell on houses and a market on the outskirts of the capital Kinshasa on Wednesday, February 2nd, local authorities have confirmed. The victims include 24 women and 2 men, and another 2 people were seriously injured. A statement from the National Electric Company has said the line fell during heavy rain on Wednesday morning. The company has offered its condolences to the families. Women and men lost their lives by electrocution this morning in a terrible accident at the Matadi Kibala market following a severing of phase conductors caused by bad weather. The government had already taken steps to relocate the market following a January 7 cabinet meeting, where President Felix Tshisekedi has said its location was snarling traffic along the road between Kinshasa and the port city of Matadi.
Russian nuclear-capable aircraft has performed drills over the Atlantic neutral waters on Thursday, February 3. In a video released by the Russian Ministry of Defense, the military aircraft has performed air refueling and conducted training for enemy submarine search. Moscow's military moves are being closely watched by the West as the build-up of Russian troops near the Ukrainian border has sparked fears of an invasion. Russia has also moved around 30,000 of troops and military hardware to Belarus, which also borders Ukraine, for the February 10 to 20 joint drills, saying it will withdraw them afterwards. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu has arrived in Belarus on Thursday to inspect Russian and Belarusian troops' preparations for joint drills this month, and will also meet Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. Moscow has denied its plans to attack Ukraine, while also demanding guarantees from the United States and NATO that Kiev would not be allowed to join the military alliance.
Emergency workers on Thursday, February the 3rd, were shifting through the rubble of building where the US has said the Islamic State leader Abdul Ibrahim Ali Hashami and al-Qushayri blew himself up during an overnight military raid. US forces were closed in on Qushayri and northwestern Syria, where he triggered a blast that also killed members of his own family, including children, the US administration has confirmed. Footage from the inside of the 3-story building showed blood-stained rooms that were damaged in the raid of the explosion, which US officials have said was so big it hurled bodies outside and into the surrounding streets and the town of Atama. 10 people, including children, were evacuated from the raid area, the Pentagon has said. The Qushayri-led Islamic State since the death in 2019 of the founder Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, who was also killed when he detonated explosives during the raid by the US commandos.
EAC News fully supports the Royal Government of Cambodia's preventative and administrative measures against COVID-19. But we need you to play your part in helping bring the 20 February community transmission event to an end. Wash your hands regularly, sanitize wherever possible. Keep an eye on your body temperature. Use the Stop COVID QR code and maintain a safe social distance. But above all, please, 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 wear a mask. Only together can we beat COVID-19. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
Today, anything can be a professional sport. Pillow fighting has been turned into a professional combat sport as athletes competed in the ring in Florida. The Pillow Fight Championships took place in Florida on 29th January, where 16 men and 8 women fought for the 2 titles. Each winner earned a title belt and $5,000.
Fighters that have different...
When you were growing up, the chances were you would have had a pillow fight with your mates. Some people might have grown out of that playful bit of fun. However, others have decided to turn it into a professional sport. Introducing the Pillow Fight Championships, PFC, the legitimate sport that sees 2 people battle inside a ring with a comfy-looking pillow. It is very similar to the likes of boxing. However, you're allowed to use a specialised PFC branded pillow to absolutely wallop your opponent with. Pillow Fighting Championships started with an idea to develop a real fighting sport that would appeal to the international family audience by combining the ancient weapon known as a pillow with experienced MMA competitors and boxers' strict rules. There are 3 2-minute rounds in each fight. The PFC said they have quickly evolved into a very popular sport-based showcase complete with all the strength, stamina and strategic skills of the other more brutal compact sports, but a massive amount of fun. They pride themselves on having all the thrill of the hand-to-hand combat fighting without any blood and a lot more action. A PFC battle was held over the weekend in Florida, and the pay-per-view event saw 16 men and 8 women compete for their chance of the title belt and cash prize of $5,000. Brazil's Estela Nunes won in the women's division and American Hailey Tillman took the men's. They've been officially crowned as the first ever PFC champions.
Champion in the red corner, Holly.
For the first time since 1989, the Cincinnati Bengals are headed to the Super Bowl, and the Kansas City Chiefs are headed home after playing in the Super Bowl the previous 2 seasons.
Rookie kicker Evan McPherson has made a 31-yard field goal in overtime Sunday, January 30, capping an 18-point rally by the Bengals en route to a 27-24 upset of the host Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Cincinnati, which had the worst record in the NFL 2 seasons ago, overcame a 21-3 first half deficit against Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, holding the high-powered Chiefs to 3 points after halftime. Joe Burrow threw for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, and McPherson went 4 for 4 on field goals for the 4th-seeded Bengals, who will face either the Los Angeles Rams or San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl in Inglewood, California on February 13. Mahomes passed for 275 yards and 3 touchdowns with 2 interceptions for Kansas City. The second-seeded Chiefs, who got the ball first in overtime last weekend and drove for the winning touchdown against Buffalo in the divisional playoffs, again won the overtime coin toss Sunday. However, Mahomes was intercepted on the 3rd play on a deep ball that was broken up by Jesse Bates III and intercepted by Von Bell. Burrow and Joe Mixon helped move the ball deep into Kansas City territory, and McPherson made his kick with 9:22 left to stun the home crowd.
I mean, you take away the good things, just like any season. It's definitely disappointing. I mean, here with this group of guys that we have, we expect to be in that game and to win that game. And anything less than that is not success. So we'll go back and we'll look at all the things we did well, the adversity we battled through, the team that we became towards the end of the season. And try to learn from the mistakes that we made and try to be better next year.
With the game tied 21-21, McPherson snuck a 52-yard field goal inside the left upright with 6:4 to play in the 4th quarter, giving the Bengals their first lead of the game. That, of course, left more than enough time for Mahomes, who drove the Chiefs inside the Cincinnati 10 with a chance to tie or win. On the next to last play of regulation, Mahomes attempted to buy time deep into the pocket before he was stripped off the ball by Cincinnati's Sam Hubbard. Kansas City recovered, but it forced Harrison Butker to attempt a 44-yard field goal, which he drilled as times expired to force overtime. Mahomes threw first half TD passes to Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and Mecole Hardman, helping the hosts build a 21-3 cushion.
FIFPro's Director of Global Policy and Strategic Relations for Women's Football, Sarah Gregorius, has said a low number of competitive women's football matches stops players from showing their ability and limits the development of the sport.
A report by Global Players Union, FIFPro, which monitored the workload among women players, showed that underload is one of the most pressing issues in the sport. The report found that even at the top level of the game, women players make a relatively low number of appearances each season. The COVID-19 pandemic has led to a further decrease, with players taking part in an average of 22 matches during the 2019 to 2020 and 2020 to 2021 seasons. FIFPro's Gregorius has highlighted that the players don't have the opportunity to develop properly, but the industry is also not going to develop properly because there isn't enough opportunity for players to go out there, leave it all on the pitch, and really showcase what they're capable of if they're just not given enough opportunities to do so. The scheduling of competitive opportunities is another major issue, which can contribute to some players experiencing overload. Gregorius believes short-term contracts make the problem worse. Players are actually going from contract to contract, season to season, so every game is an opportunity to obtain and retain a professional contract. That puts a lot of pressure on the players.
We have this phenomenon of really short-term contracts in women's football, right? It's not often that you see these multi-year deals. So players are actually going from contract to contract, season to season. So every game is an opportunity to obtain and retain a professional contract. So again, that puts a lot of pressure on them. And actually what we need to discuss more in detail is actually, are players therefore cutting corners on their physiological well-being because everything is so short-term? It's a smash and grab. So maybe I don't want to rest this week because then another player might come in and I lose that. I think one important thing that can be done to address some of the key issues we raise in the report, like underload, is just better conversations and collaboration around scheduling in particular, and an understanding of how competitions and different competition organizers can use the potential of what they can provide to the industry in the best possible way. So like regulating things around travel, if you are a competition organizer, you have an inherent interest in people being able to perform in your competition. So make sure that you regulate the travel conditions so that you leave no stone unturned in the way that they can represent and do well in your competition. So that's really important.
Manchester United forward Mason Greenwood has been released on bail pending further investigations, police said on Wednesday, after the 20-year-old player was arrested on suspicion of rape and assault of a woman.
Tuesday, 1st of February 2022, Greenwood was further arrested on suspicion of sexual assault and making threats to kill. Manchester United has issued a new statement following Tuesday's developments, saying Manchester United reiterates its strong condemnation of violence of any kind. The club has suspended footballer Mason Greenwood on Sunday, a move that followed accusations online that the 20-year-old player had assaulted a woman. Any marketing or products created by Manchester United or United sponsors will not feature Greenwood. All Greenwood sponsors have also suspended their ties. Greenwood, or a representative for him, have not responded to the allegations.
Bartenders and waitering staff are made to wear full hazmat suits in a restaurant at a ski resort in Zhangjiakou.
A bartender in the Chinese ski resort of Zhangjiakou wears a blue and white hazmat suit as he pours a cocktail, before passing the drink to a similarly attired waiter who shuffles across the room in blue plastic booties to deliver the drink. The bar guests at Nanshan Condoro on Wednesday evening, most of them Olympic-related personnel and journalists, could see only a sliver of their servers' faces behind white masks and giant plastic face shields. A giant closed loop entirely separates the thousands of international athletes, officials, and journalists arriving for the start of the game on Friday from the general public. The scene, which some participants have likened to dystopian fiction, is playing out around Olympic venues in the capital of Zhangjiakou in neighboring Hebei provinces as Chinese officials try to minimize the chance of Beijing Winter Games sparking a fresh coronavirus outbreak. A room service order of a club sandwich and fries came wrapped in plastic and delivered by a worker, again in full PPE. Hallways and lobbies of venues and hotels are constantly sprayed with disinfectant, giving the air a distinct smell of Lysol. Most days at the media center, workers in PPE emblazoned with colorful Olympic rings spray down floors and a robot sprays disinfectant into the air. The closed loop will allow the athletes, coaches, and other officials to shuttle between accommodation and Olympic venues on official transport, but they are not allowed out to move freely in public. Everyone in the closed loop, which includes the 4,500 athletes who have arrived so far for the February 4 to 20 games and 20,000 local volunteers, are subjected to daily PCR tests. Officials conducted 67,137 tests on Wednesday. Olympic organizers said on Wednesday they had recorded 32 COVID-19 cases in the previous 24 hours, 15 of them new airport arrivals. Brian McCloskey, chair of the Beijing 2022 medical expert panel, said he expected the daily number to drop once the number of participants arriving begins to decrease.
The Duchess of Cambridge joined England rugby players for a training session on Wednesday, 2nd of February, as she became patron of the Rugby Football League and the Rugby Football Union.
Kate Middleton was seen smiling and laughing as she practiced throwing and kicking the ball with the members of the England women's rugby team. She was also lifted for a line-out and crouched for a scrum. Kate was given the patronage by the Queen Elizabeth II to take over the role from her brother-in-law, Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex. The training of London's Twickenham Stadium came days ahead of the Six Nations campaign that starts this weekend. The Men's, Women's Wheelchair and Physical Disability Rugby League World Cups will be hosted in England in autumn 2022. Since its founding in 1895, the Rugby Football League has been a national governing body for the Rugby League in the UK. Since its founding in 1895, the Rugby Football League has been the national governing body for the Rugby League in the UK. The Rugby Football Union is the national governing body for the grassroots and elite rugby union in England and is one of the largest sports organisations in the country with 1,900 member clubs.
From the deserts of Saudi Arabia to the slopes of the Beijing Winter Games, skier Faik Abdi will be the first to represent the kingdom in alpine skiing races at the Winter Olympics in China.
Abdi has mainly been practicing in Utah since moving to the US in 2012, and has said that one of his main challenges was not being able to practice in his home country. Participating in the first race in Sweden, Abdi competed against athletes from Australia, New Zealand, South Korea, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Italy, France, Switzerland, and Austria. He then went on to Montenegro, where he accumulated enough points to qualify for the Winter Olympics.
It's a pleasure to be leading this team to the first Olympic Winter Games. And since we started, we always believe in this team because the athletes, they have really big commitment. They have a really good attitude. They've been working really hard, and we all believe in this qualification.
We did it because the guys showed a really good attitude and commitment to this project, and that passion brought them to this such event, Sands added. The giant slalom has attracted competitors from countries with no medals winning records in the sport, including Abdi, a violinist Vanessa May, who competed for Thailand at the 2014 Winter Olympics. The Winter Games have brought all different kinds of competitors from remote places around the world that have not seen snow to allow people to follow their dreams to compete in an Olympics.
After a hiatus last year due to the coronavirus pandemic, San Francisco's Chinese New Year Festival and Parade returns to the city's famed Chinatown neighborhood this year. The San Francisco Chinese New Year Festival officially kicks off on Tuesday, February 1st, with the start of the Lunar New Year. Its parade follows on Saturday, February 19th. However, the annual celebration began unofficially on Saturday.
It's really exciting, and it's also just really heartwarming, and it's long overdue. I think people are really just excited and can't wait for life to come back to normal. So in a way, this is hopefully a kickoff for that, for some normalcy. And of course, Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year is a time for celebration and gratitude. So for your family and all your loved ones, and for hopes hopes and wishes for a better new year.
This whole parade, everything, big staple of Chinatown. It's nice to see it finally come back. I think it's important for everybody in these daunting times.
It feels very exciting to come back. The feel of energy, the feel of vibe. For Chinese culture, it's very important to hang out with family, be with friends, and to get together and kind of to mix the good energy around, to share the good vibes, share the good energy around. And so right now, it feels like a lot of the energy has come back. So it's very encouraging for all of us in the Chinese culture.
Chinese New Year is one of the biggest event for the Chinese culture. And this is, I always describe it as a three of our American holidays rolled into one. It's like Thanksgiving because, as a matter of fact, instead of just one big family meal, we have many family gatherings. And it's like Christmas, instead of passing out gifts, we pass out wet envelopes. And there's no gift returning because they all have contain money. And then it's like Mardi Gras, a big parade, ended with a big celebration.
Since the pandemic, no one has really stepped outside of their house. This year, after vaccinations and many bouts of restrictions, people are finally starting to come out. Chinese New Year is about new beginnings, good luck, family, and community coming together. Lots of hope and good fortune. It is a very positive time of the year for everyone. The neighborhood's atmosphere has largely been subdued over the past 2 years, with the pandemic forcing the state to issue a shelter-in-place order in March 2020. In addition, Asian and Asian American communities have suffered from rising rates of hate crimes during the past 2 years. Statistics showed that 60 hate crimes were committed against Asians in San Francisco during 2021, up from only 9 the year before, city police announced this past week. But on Saturday, 29th January, the streets were packed with residents to pick up traditional holiday items such as the kumquat tree, which symbolizes good luck and prosperity, a variety of flowers which symbolize anything from fertility and abundance to endurance and courage, and special envelopes used to give cash. Several blocks from downtown, festival and parade director Harlan Wong has been busy preparing for the event's return. At an empty store in the Embarcadero Center, Wong is overseeing the construction of props for the parade, including a giant dragon. He compares Lunar New Year to Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Mardi Gras all rolled into one super holiday. He says he cannot wait for the official kickoff. For 2022, we're hoping to have a big comeback. We want to be roaring back like a tiger, he said. He added that the past 2 years have been rough for business and the neighborhood in general. A breeding center in South China's Guangdong province has launched an activity to solicitate names for a pair of 1-month-old tiger cubs on the eve of the Chinese Year of the Tiger. People can submit their suggestions on the China Media Group website, and the 2 most popular names will be announced on February 15th. The female twin cubs of endangered South China tigers were born on December 31st at the breeding research base in Guangdong's Shaoguan city. The keepers have reported that the cubs are now 3.65 kilograms each and are growing well in an incubator. A veterinarian at the breeding center, Lei Xingjia, says the cubs are scheduled to be vaccinated when they turn 1.5 months old. The twin cubs will also start to feed by meat, starting from meat paste to pieces of meat and then meat with bones, so that they will slowly get used to eating meat. The South China tiger is under first-class state protection in the country. The International Union for Conservation of Nature considers the animal critically endangered. At present, there are only about 200 South China tigers in China, all in captivity. Tuesday, 1st February, marked the beginning of the Year of the Tiger in the Chinese zodiac cycle. Many breeding centers across China are exhibiting the videos of cute tiger cubs. And finally, Ben and Sharon Davis are an environmentalist husband and wife duo who have spent over 30 years working to protect the forests in Previer province. Recently, they were granted Khmer nationality by the King of Cambodia. EAC News reporter Robin Lim sat down with the two to discuss their work and to see how they were feeling now that they are officially Cambodian citizens.
Hello.
Hello, Shireen.
Hi, does that work?
Yeah, we can hear you clearly now.
Okay, good. You were trying to call on Telegram just now. That doesn't work either.
And the Zoom calls didn't work either. No worries.
Okay.
We had some questions we wanted to ask you, a quick interview. Me and you know each other, but it's been a while.
Yeah, I know.
Congrats on getting your Khmer nationality. Your whole family got it, right?
Thank you. Yes, they were generous and gave us all Khmer citizenship.
Wow. How do you feel about that?
We're very excited. I was amazed, amazed that they would do that for us. We've been here a long time, but we didn't really think that we could become Cambodians. So we're very, very happy to receive the honor of becoming citizens.
Amazing. Was it out of the blue or?
Our friends had been sort of asking, and we approached the Ministry of Environment to see. We sort of told them we were interested if there was any way that they could help, and so we did put in an application and did all the paperwork for the process, but sort of half without thinking that it could really happen. So we were trying to sort of apply for it, but we weren't sure whether anybody would give it to us or not. So we're very thankful to the King and to the Prime Minister for supporting the application.
That's amazing. Do you think having Khmer nationality will help further your efforts in protecting nature in Cambodia?
Okay, I'll let Ben answer that one. He's here as well.
I don't know. I hope so, but I'm not sure. I really have to wait and see how the people, maybe the people that want to kill me that are logging may be more daring to kill me now because I'm not a foreigner anymore. I'm not sure. Yeah. It could be advantage, could be disadvantage. I'm not sure. I'm kind of joking there, but
yeah, those were insane times, Ben. So how long exactly have you been in the Kingdom of Cambodia?
Just a little less than 30 years. I came in 1992, toward the end of 92. Well, I came to do humanitarian work, so I spent about 20 years doing water and sanitation, mostly wells.
Wow.
And I actually worked in a refugee camp to start with. So when they closed the refugee camp, I came to work in Cambodia.
Amazing. What made you change your efforts from humanitarian to an environmentalist along the way?
I like doing wells. I like working in the villages with the villagers, and of course, when you do a lot of water solving for the villagers, everybody's very happy with your work, and so it's easy. You can say it's fun work. It's really fun.
Right.
But I figured after 20 years, in the early 90s, there was a big shortage of water in the rural area. But after, by 2010, I noticed that there's so many other NGOs doing water sanitation, and the villagers weren't nearly as desperate for water as they had been when I first started working. So it wasn't the cutting edge need I felt, but the conservation, it seemed like, was desperate. Not enough people doing conservation.
Right.
And so I wanted to do that because it looked like it's only a limited window to do it, and after it's gone, you can't do it anymore. So I decided to stop while I had time.
So you went for the pressing issue. I see.
Yeah, I like to be doing something that's making a major difference, not just something that anybody can do or anybody's happy to do.
Right.
I'd prefer to do the jobs that maybe other people don't want to do. My water sanitation project, normally we're in the most remote areas, at the far, far remote areas. And so those are the places where most people would not go to work.
Right.
So I don't mind living out in a far remote area. So actually, I like it better than the city. So I was happy to do that kind of work.
So what specifically drove you to help Cambodia in particular?
Yeah, that's just not really, I can't say, what it was, except that it was almost by chance, you can say, or divine intervention or something. But I just came to work in Thailand as a student volunteer, 1988, and I actually planned to work with Karen, Burmese refugees, not Cambodian refugees.
Right.
However, my job in the Burmese border with Mae Sot, that area, that didn't work out. So instead, I ended up on the Cambodian border. Well, yeah, working in a refugee camp, Cambodian refugee camp instead. So I got to know the Cambodian people. I started to learn the language, and I wanted to keep helping them because it looked like such a terrible situation.
Right.
I really wanted to help them because everybody's suffering, especially during the war in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I just ended up coming to Cambodia because I had already started working in the camps and I knew the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how I ended up here. It wasn't. I didn't choose to come here initially. I kind of went little by little.
I remember last time I visited you with Ratana, and you had an issue with illegal logging and poaching. Do you face any new challenges since the last time we met?
It's not changed too much.
I see.
And I really don't think it's going to ever change because it's just everybody needs these resources, and so they keep trying to get it because it's worth more and more money as time goes by, and people still owe the bank. Some cases they don't have any other option to pay the bank back, so everybody's looking at the resource there. It's so close, and they try to think of ways to get it, but a lot of people are being cooperative. I'd say the vast majority don't try to cut the trees or even poach.
Right.
But there's a small percent that are quite daring, and I don't know, like they don't want to stop or something. They're really not necessarily poor and desperate, but just their attitude is that we should not have the right to stop them. They should have the right to cut the forest because it's Cambodians' forest, not foreigners' forest. That's one thing they use, excuse. Another thing they say is, some other place they cut the trees down. Why do we not cut the trees here? Why are they not allowed to cut here as well?
Right.
So they can make comparison, and so it's hard to convince people that have that logic.
Right. It seems like you have your hands full in the Prevahi area at the moment, but do you plan to expand your environmental efforts elsewhere in Cambodia?
No, not really. We don't have the capacity to expand. We need to, get a handle on it here first is the main thing. And so I think, there's other needs in other areas, but someone else has to do that job over there.
Right.
And if I can, work in this area and be successful, I think that's the best I can hope for.
Right.
I don't mind going other places, for visit or maybe to give some pointers or something if people want that. But as far as working another place, I don't really. I want to make sure this place, is safe and being successful, and that the local villagers and local communities are getting benefit, and
yeah,
appreciating it. I hope, we want them to appreciate it, and a lot do, but some don't. So we want to get more people on board.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans to go back to, I believe, America or Australia, was it?
Well, yeah, I'm American. My wife's Australian.
There we go. So any plans to return to either Australia or America now?
Well, we do to visit for sure, but as long as we're working here and trying to make this successful here, we can't leave it. So I don't have any immediate plan to go anywhere, but I can't tell the future. I don't dare to predict the future because things always change.
Yeah.
I remember last time we met was because of Ratana and the K9. Has there been any progress on that?
Yeah, we have Dog, and he's a Belgium Malinois. So he's learning how to track. And Ratana has been giving us online course. So he gives us lessons by Zoom, and then we try and do it. So he's learning how to track, and he's doing pretty good, although he's a bit lazy sometimes, but I think we're making progress. He's still quite, young. He's a puppy still. So.
All right, Ben and Shireen, thank you for the interview.
All right. Thanks a million for calling. Take care.
Well, Ben Davis, it's been a pleasure chatting to you and your wife, Shireen, again. I hope to visit you soon. Robin Lim, EAC News.
The beer called Line is the result of a tie-up between a firm that wants to popularize the algae as a dietary supplement and a nearby craft brewery that was looking for a way to make its beverages more distinctive. As a result, a blue beer is out of the ordinary. Line beer's blue tint comes from spirulina, an algae that is grown in basins by a company called Etica spirulina in northern France. The component of the spirulina that gives the blue color, called physocyanin, is then added to the beer during the brewing process. Xavier Delanoy, whose farm provides the spirulina, has said after several test batches that the brewery found a blend that appealed to customers. He said 1,500 bottles of the blue beer were sold between October and December last year, and the brewery is now preparing to ramp up production to meet demand. That's really what interests us, to try to democratize this so that it not only concerns particular types of people, said Delanoy. We thought that one great way to democratize a product in northern France is to make beer. Tasting a freshly produced bottle of the beer, an employee of Hoppy Urban Brew who makes the drink, Mathilde Van Mansart, described it as a hoppy, light, and with fruity notes, while the only evidence of the added algae was the distinctive color. The challenge for the producers rests in achieving a blue hue, since many brewers who have tried to use spirulina in beer production have ended up with a green color due to the naturally yellowish tint of beer, brewery worker Alexis Cardot has said. Blue beer is out of the ordinary. We had to encourage people to have a taste and look beyond the appearance, Cardot added. The brewery can bottle and package around 500 liters of beer in one day. Since the last batch sold out in December, a growing demand has led the brewery to find time to make more, employee Sebastian Verbeek has said, adding that the enthusiasm around the product is encouraging as it continues to get an enormous amount of interest and curiosity from the public. And now for a look at how the weather will be playing out over the next few days. Thank you for watching the Weekly Roundup on EAC News Channel. For more breaking news and updates, you can check out our website, eacnews.asia, or search EAC News on Telegram or at your favorite app store. More from the EAC News team in the Daily Roundup on Monday night at 8 p.m. We will see you then.